are the river. Do you get that? We are the river. We are in this place and this space right now where there is, well, I'm going to say there's a lot going on out in the world. You might have noticed. Here's what we have to know, that before construction can happen, deconstruction has to happen. Before we can take in a new idea about who we are, we need to release the old idea about who we are. We should be receptive to the purpose of the universe. We should expect results and be willing to give up anything and everything that would hinder the results. And that includes our judgment. Oh my God, I have to give up my judgment. Do you know that judgment is the investment in whatever that problem is that you have called a problem? It's the investment. You know, in the allegory that is Adam and Eve, don't go into that other place. It's an allegory, folks. And if you think I'm going to be struck by lightning, so be it. I've had a rich, full life. In that allegory, the creation happened. Adam saw it. He named it and he claimed it. When you and I name something, we claim it. Now, I'm not saying go stupid. I'm not saying look at stuff that's happening in the world and not call it unjust, unfree, mean-spirit, or whatever that word is. But I'm saying don't dwell in it. We dwell in that limitation. We invest in it. We claim it. We script it. We have characters, we have good guys, we have bad guys, we have whole things that we play out, and we get really, really invested in that. This is so not the talk I was going to give. But here are a couple of things I want to share with you. Rumi and Ernest Holmes. I seem to be doing a lot of Rumi and Ernest today. So Rumi, let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. Yet we let ourselves be silently and loudly drawn to the stuff we don't really love. It's the same energy. It's the same power. It's that same presence. Because anything we name and we claim through our choice to judge, our choice to hold firm, hold fast in that opinion, now it has become a creative law in our lives. Congratulations, well done. And here's from Ernest. The desire you have to be something, to do something, is a mental echo in your mind of the spirit that already exists within you. It is the spirit in you seeking an avenue of expression through you. Now, I don't think any of us were raised, or at least we have not been planted, that seed has not been implanted within us to have an avenue of expression of bitterness, of angriness, of limitation. That is not a divine gift. That is a choice. We can name it and claim it, or we can name it and claim it, right? Okay. And remember what I read earlier. We should be receptive to the purpose of the universe. We should expect results and be willing to give up anything and everything that would hinder those results. Okay, so I've got a quote today from another one from Ernest, and I'm going to revisit it several times. The time has come for us to stand on the invisible and make it visible. The time has come for us to stand on the invisible and make it visible. Now, do we realize that that invisible is not our power to judge, claim, stay angry, be bitter, and to identify and invest in the pain, the experiences, the results in the world? Do we get that?
Yes.
I want us to really, I know you get it. Do you get it? Rumi said, you have to keep breaking your heart until it opens. Now, he didn't say crumble it, dismantle it into little pieces of pain and anger and hatred and bitterness. He said, break it, as in break it open. Break it open. So sit with that for a minute. Just sit with that while I move my buddy over here. All right. I love this stand. It has wheels. It's mobile. Okay. I think some of us came in today carrying something in our hearts, something on our hearts and our minds that is not light unicorn pink fairy dust, right? Maybe it's a disappointment that won't resolve. Maybe it's a fear that keeps showing up no matter how many times you affirm it away or try to affirm it away. Maybe it's a question you're almost afraid to ask out loud. And here's what I want to say before I get any further into this. That thing you've been holding as a problem, what if it's your doorway? What if it's your opening? What if it's the opening you've been looking for in order to live the life that you crave, that you desire, that river within you is calling you to be a part of, to live in and as, and to allow it to come forth? What if it's a doorway instead of something to invest in, hold on to, and be really, really rigidly tight and angry about? I'm, of course, talking about the world. I'm really good at that, by the way. Just ask my family, they'll tell you. But again, the time has come for us to stand on the invisible and make it visible. To stand on the invisible. In other words, that power, that divinity, that is who we are, created in the image of likeness of love, to make it visible. To make it visible. Not someday, not when you finally feel ready or worthy, or the stars align, or you've got the right clothes in your closet, or the cellulite goes away. It's not any of that. The time has come now, here and now, because all the power in the universe is present in this present moment. It's right here. It's right here. It's not tomorrow. It's not yesterday. We bring those into the present moment, and they create for us. But what if we stopped doing that, began to be present to this moment right here? The time has come for us to stand on the invisible and make it visible. So, big question, but really, Sydney, how do we do that? How do we really do that? You know, these words. I want to have more than a pleasant conversation today. Are you willing to really kind of go where it's maybe not so comfortable, not so pretty? Okay, good. So most of us have been taught to assert the invisible. We declare it, we affirm it, we vision board it, but somewhere along the way, we have missed something essential. Something our souls, by the way, have always known. You cannot stand on the invisible with an unexamined inner life. Because what it means is that the invisible divine, that infinite invisible, that is the truth of who you and I are, is now being enmeshed with the invisible stuff that we have named and claimed of limitation, of anger, of fear, of judgment, all of that stuff. And again, I'm not saying go stupid. Don't go stupid on me. Stay clear. Yes, there are injustices. There are experiences. There is racism. There is homophobia. There is greed, there are tariffs, but all of that stuff is the stuff. Those are all the result of thoughts that happened before. And they are not who we are. We get to take this divine, infinite, invisible wisdom that is actually the greater truth for our full expression, for that which we came into this planet, into this life with, and which we will take with us when we depart this physical experience. We get to take and lean on that wisdom and know that there is more. Now, I know Pat Wilson has seen some of the Facebook posts that I put up, and they're snarky. But I don't dwell there. Although Pat's got some really good ones too. But I don't dwell there. I know that I get to move beyond that. I get to observe. I get to look at it. Do I want to name it and claim it? Oh, hell no. But I want to claim the absolute divine truth. So we cannot stand on the invisible without an unexamined inner knowing. Rising up to a higher knowing comes from that. Mountaintop living is that, and that's what this talk is. That's what my message is titled, Mountaintop Living. And let me just say, I have been to the mountain. Actually, I went to Reno. I was at a minister's conference last week. I don't gamble at all, at all, at all. But we had this conference, and the teaching is alive, people. This teaching is alive, and it's vital, and it is growing, and we all are part of it. We get to live in it and as it, but that's a choice. We can name it and claim it. The time has come for us to stand on the invisible and make it visible. So what is that invisible that your heart and your soul is calling for you to make visible? To make it visible in this one outrageously incredible, unique life that you have been given. What is that wants to be brought forth? So now, I only have a few minutes. I've only got like 20 minutes, so I'm just going to give it to you. I'm going to answer the question for you, because, yeah, I'm controlling. No, I'm not. My family will tell you that I say over and over, I'm not a control freak, I'm a high-level planner. So there's a difference. The invisible is the truth about you that your current circumstances don't yet reflect. Think about that. The invisible is the truth, the divine, capital T truth about you, that thing that you desire, that thing that you are being called to express, that your current experiences aren't yet reflecting. So the invisible is not make-believe. It's not denial. It's actually more real than what you can see, because what you and I see is this, as I said, past thinking, past ideas, or grabbing our fears about the future, and they're showing up as current manifest conditions and experiences. They become the creative power, the creative law for our life. We get to choose. So the invisible is actually what's next, and it requires a higher vantage point to see it. And that's why in so many wisdom texts, the mountaintop is always a seeing place. It signifies, it represents a place of greater vision, spiritual vision, higher vision. So when Moses goes up Mount Sinai, he doesn't go up really polished or like a together kind of guy. He went up the mountain a fugitive with a speech impediment, and then he came down as a man with the face of God written all over him, on his skin, on his face, and the people around him had to put a veil over his face because the glow was too much. The light was too big. So what changed? His seeing. And when you see differently, you become different. Wayne Dyer said this, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. But more importantly, you and I change. That's the power right there. We change. And why is that? Because we are learning to see with spiritual vision, not our earthbound, judgment-based vision, spiritual vision. So, for example, the prophet Elijah. Y'all know about Eli, right? No, I didn't either. I still don't. I'm just making stuff up. No. By the way, we all have a degree called an MSU. Did you know that? Makes stuff up. Y'all have one. If you haven't had it by now, I now declare you have an MSU. Just make stuff up, because we're doing it anyway. We're looking out here in the world and telling ourselves, well, that's what this means. That's what that means. That's what that means. We're naming it. We're claiming it. What if we made it up from a higher place, from that mountaintop? So Elijah goes up to Horeb, burned out, suicidal, and convinced that he's the last faithful person left. He was a very, very narcissistic, dramatic guy, I think, because he went, I alone am left, which, if you're from the South, you understand this. Bless his heart. Was dramatic and factually incorrect. Even when God informs him that there are 7,000 people who have not bowed to Baal, that's bad. 7,000. Elijah just couldn't see them from where he was standing. The mountain gave him back his sight. So here's the pattern. God, that presence, that love, that wisdom, doesn't meet people on mountains to give them information. God meets us on the mountain to give us new eyes, to give us spiritual vision. So we are not here just to have information. We are here for a greater vision, a greater possibility. Because it's not until we do that, and to the degree that we do that, that our lives begin to unfold in that vision of the mountain, right? So this God, not God as personality, but as infinite intelligence, loving wisdom, animating presence, and deep peace. Now, I want to say that, understand, whenever you see names in the wisdom text that we call the Bible, and it's a book, it's not a sacred thing, it's a book that was written about, by the way, by men. The patriarchy has deep roots. I don't hate men, I just hate the roots, man. The Bible and all of these names, they represent you and me. They represent you and me, various stages of our spiritual and psychological growth. We all have a Moses within us. We all have an Elijah. We all have a Jesus, a teacher. Jesus as the teacher, the master teacher. We all have an Adam within us. We all have an Eve within us. We all have an Esther we have all of that. Those all represent different parts of our unfoldment. So don't start giving them, you can look at this historically, but for our purposes right here, we're looking at this metaphysically. That's what we can, for me and for this teaching, that's what will give us the greatest light and guidance to move into a greater expression of life. So the Bible is basically a way of understanding how we grow, how we stumble, we fall, we learn, we grow, and we rise, and then we do it all over again. And we get to see it demonstrated through all of these different stories, with all of these different names that represent our own unfoldment. So if we don't get it with the prodigal son, maybe we'll get it with Ecclesiastes. If we don't get it there, maybe we'll get it with David and Goliath. If we don't get it there, maybe we'll get it over here. If we don't get it there, maybe we'll get it. And it's all the same story. Us coming into our true identity. So here's the thing. Stephen Hawking, this man spent decades unable to move his body. Still, he managed to expand our entire understanding of the cosmos. And he said, remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Now, that's not just advice. That's theology. That's a personal theology. That's a theology. Mountaintop living is the daily practice choice to see from that higher place, spiritually, emotionally, ethically, mentally, even when, and especially when, our feet are still in the valley, right? Because there is a higher wisdom that is calling us, that is seeking to express through us in a greater way. We don't have to audition for it. We don't have to be approved for it. We are there now. All we have to do is be willing to say yes, to be willing. So, there's something that I think stands in the way for most of us, because there's a difference between seeing that mountaintop and actually living there and understanding that. So let's clean that one up. I love New Thought, and this might annoy some of you who've been in it for a long time. I believe with everything I've got that consciousness matters. Consciousness matters. Our lives are consciousness. That consciousness, which is basically our awareness, the activity of our beliefs. Consciousness matters. I believe that we are not helpless victims of circumstance. I truly get that. But we are active, creative, spiritual beings with genuine access, immediate, imminent access to something so much larger, infinitely larger than our problems. And there is a shadow side to every tradition. Again, it's not all pink fairy dust and unicorns. Here's the shadow side. We have learned to assert the invisible without doing the work to live there. We have learned to assert the invisible without doing the work to live there. And this is also known as spiritual bypass. Bum, bum, bum. And it means using spiritual ideas to go around the hard inner work rather than through it. And it's infinitely harder to go around it, to go above it, to circumvent, to take that bypass, than just to say, oh, to heck with it, I'm going to go through it. Because all of the gifts are there. Again, what if your problem isn't a problem, but it's a doorway, it's an opening. It is that dismantling, finally coming forth, whether it's within you or in the world. And by the way, it starts within us first. All of that, all of it starts here. But what if all of that is about us finally saying, the soul within us finally saying, you're ready to look at this now. You're ready for your gift. You're ready for your jewels. You are ready for that experience of heaven on earth. And it's time to clean everything out. It's time to clean the manger. If you want to have a birth, you got to have a clean manger. You got to get rid of the clutter. I'm going to step aside for a second with this idea. Some of you think we have a lot of clutter up here. It's an outpicturing maybe of our minds, but we're cleaning it up because within the next couple of weeks we are actually adding space to this end of our stage and moving the band over so they have their area, we have this area, that area, and the clutter will be free. Okay. So here's how spiritual bypassing shows up in New Thought. Affirmations get used as armor against feeling instead of tools for transformation, right? Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Meanwhile, the quicksand is up to here, and we're holding on with the best of our ability. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I don't want to feel afraid. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want, It shows up as high vibration language. Now hear this, that subtly shames us in our grief, our doubt, and our struggle. We go through grief, we go through doubt, we go through struggle. But if we are claiming high vibration language, that very, very pretty unicorn stuff, in order to not realize that we have struggle, that we have growth going on, we're missing the greater gift. It shows up as the belief that if your life, here's a good one. If your life hasn't been working, or it isn't working, you simply haven't believed hard enough. You just haven't believed enough. That's spiritually brutal. That's metaphysical malpractice. And if you are doing it to yourself, stop it. And if somebody else is doing it to you, then turn and walk away. You're not here for that. It also shows up as transcendence as a destination rather than a practice. Transcendence is a practice. It's not a destination, I promise you. So what it all does to us is that when we are in real pain, we add a layer of shame on top of the suffering. Oh, great, excellent. So now you're not just going through something. Wait, I lost my place, come here. That's later. Okay, stop that. Talk amongst yourself for a bit. La, 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 la. So now you're not just going through something hard, you're going through something hard, and it's your fault. And you should be able to think your way out of it, right? I've been in this teaching for X number of years, X number of days. I should be able to heal this. I should be able to get out of it. Shame on me. Shame on me. That right there stops our growth. That right there stops that opening, that breaking opening that Rumi spoke of. It stops us from that light coming in. I think it's insane that we have this magnificent teaching, and yet we find insidious ways to weaponize it against our own precious and evolving souls. We do that to ourselves. So when the hard stuff happens, and we all have hard stuffs, the diagnosis, the end of the marriage, the dream that defers, if all we have is a convenient, sometimes practice built on the idea that right thinking prevents hard things, the hard thing doesn't just hurt. It disproves everything we thought we believed. And people don't just lose their footing in this. You and I don't just lose our footing. We leave. People leave. I've seen it. I've seen it for years and years, that the hard thing comes through, and because we haven't really engaged in a deeper regular disciplined spiritual practice, I remember hearing it even in practitioner training. I guess this just isn't my church. I guess this is not my teaching. You remember the Dick Van Dyke Show? Oh, Rob, it's that. We all start whining. The invisible is real. The mountaintop is real. But you cannot get there on a bypass. You must take the road that goes through all of the stuff, the mess, the pain, the human experience. Because, yes, that is the road less traveled. That's the road we have to take. And it's the road through, not around. It's the road through the mud. Let's call it the mud. Or as Brene Brown calls it, the messy middle. It's the going through instead of the avoidance or the distraction that our egos, by the way, put in front of us in order to keep us there, to keep us comfortable in the familiar, which is not comfortable at all. It's actually the most uncomfortable thing we can go through, but it's familiar, so what the heck, I'll stay here, right? Okay. Consider the lotus. Oh, that was a change of subject, Dr. Sidney. The lotus is this ancient symbol of enlightenment, and it shows up across traditions, so varied and geographically distant that all of them landing on that same flower has to be more than just coincidence. Here's what every one of those wisdom traditions understood that you and I forget in our rush to get to the good stuff, to the beautiful part, to move beyond the pain, beyond the struggle. The lotus grows in mud. It grows in mud, not in spite of it, because of it. The mud is the medium. Without the density, the darkness, the thoroughly unglamorous reality of it, there is no lotus. There is no flower without the mud. There is no lasting, structurally sound, able to hold the weight of a real-life transformation without the equivalent of mud. And you've heard it said, probably no mud, no lotus, because that's where the roots are. That's where they are nurtured. They grow in the mud. So I think that the question isn't how do we avoid the mud? The question is, are we willing to let the mud do its work within us? Are we willing to go through it? And yeah, it's going to take muscle, it takes courage, it takes spiritual discipline, it takes mental discipline, which is why this is a teaching that Ernest Holmes called it the science of mind and spirit. And what we are looking at here is that we are taking ancient wisdom and we are mixing it, using it, and looking at it through the lens of spiritual science. Spiritual science. Does that make sense? Okay. Again, he gets it. So let's go back to Moses for a minute. You know, the tribe of Israel gets all the mountaintop goodness. They go to Sinai, they get the glory, they get the thunder, the fire, the manna from heaven, miracle after miracle after miracle, and then 40 years in the wilderness. Now, a lot of us hear this as punishment or a mistake, but what if it was formation? What if it's the version of mud, right? And here's something you need to know about the number 40. Metaphysically, it means as long as it takes. It's not about the numerical value. It means as long as it takes. 40 days of rain for Noah. Okay, the story of this guy who got in a boat, went sailing, took a lot of animals with him who miraculously didn't eat each other. And that's because it's a story. He took with, so water, emotion, and feeling. Rain, emotion and feeling just coming down. Animal nature. He took all of it with him, and went through the emotion and came out the other end of it with the mastery of the animal nature. It's why Jesus rode Jesus rode into Jerusalem, on a donkey. Because the donkey is that symbol, metaphysically means that part of us that is undisciplined, untrainable, fully resistant, and really, have you ever heard this, stubborn? And Jesus embraced it. He rode into this place of peace with the animal nature, all of his resistance, all of it. So instead of pushing it over here, embracing it. as long as it takes. So you might be in your sacred 40 right now. You might be in that. That healing that seems to be taking forever, the breakthrough that keeps not quite breaking through. You're not behind, you're not failing, and you're not being punished. As long as it takes. You may be in your sacred 40. And you might have it in several different areas at several different times, as long as it takes. So here's the lesson about the Israelites. As they wandered in the desert, no amount of miracles could fix their lost in the desert problem because they were navigating according to who they thought they were before. They were navigating according to what they used to be, right? It's like they were using a really old and outdated Thomas guide. Some of you remember that. Instead of Google Maps, because they were navigating according to an old identity, not a spiritual truth. They had slave minds and free bodies. Slave minds and free bodies. They had been liberated from Egypt, but Egypt had not been liberated from them. Now, Egypt, there's a word for this, symbolizes, there it is. Metaphysically, Egypt means bondage. What is your Egypt? What is your Egypt? Your body may be liberated from it, but if your mind is still identifying with that restriction, that limitation, then you are still experiencing that captivity. And what I want all of us to do is to move beyond the captivity of our old ideas, our limiting thoughts, those opinions that we have about others and ourselves, the judgments that we are just I'm right about this. I know I'm right about this. I'm right, aren't I? I want us to be able to liberate ourselves because you and I are the only ones who can do that for ourselves. We have to make that decision, and it requires willingness. Are we willing? Are we willing? Are we willing? And some of us are so willing. We are so willing to be right. Are we willing to be wrong? Are we willing to not judge ourselves for a changed perception? Are we willing to move beyond the judgment we have held about ourselves and others, those deep beliefs about limitation? Are we willing? It may make you wrong. It may make your parents wrong, and maybe that's not a good idea in the family of origin. That family that maybe dad was wrong, maybe mom was wrong, maybe Uncle Joe was wrong, maybe a minister somewhere was wrong, maybe I'm wrong. Although my husband will tell you I'm not. 400 years of bondage lives in your nervous system, in your sense of what's possible. The reflexive tendency, the moment things get hard, is to look back at that familiar misery, and we all do it, and to say, well, at least in Egypt we had cucumbers. I'm not making that up. They actually said that. Cucumbers. I don't write this stuff. I do make a lot up. Anyway, you cannot inhabit a promised land with a wilderness identity. Now, the children of Israel were born, the ones who lived to see Canaan were not the ones who saw the Red Sea part. That's a whole other talk and metaphysical symbology that we'll do another time. But the children of Israel who saw Canaan, the promised land, were born in the wilderness. They didn't carry Egypt with them because that's as long as it took. So are we willing to step out of that captivity of our own judgments, our own ideas, our own opinions about this is how it is, that's how it has to be, and allow ourselves to be liberated and move into a place of, I am willing to see this differently. I am willing to be different. I am willing to see. If I change the way I look at this, the things I am looking at will change. I will change. Are we willing to do that? Because that is the fundamental thing that this teaching asks of us, to explore that which we have been thinking, whether by accident, by volunteering, or by choice, those active thoughts that are taking up the most residence in our minds, in our lives, in our hearts, this teaching asks us to interrogate them deeply and to see, is this true for me? Is it really true? Who said that? Oh my God, who told me that? Do I really, really believe it? Do I want to believe it? Do I want to believe it? We have choice. The mud is not your enemy. It is your evidence. The desert is not your enemy. It is your evidence. Your broken places are not evidence that the spiritual life isn't working. They are the evidence that it is. You are right on schedule. You are beloved by life itself. This universal purpose is tapping on your shoulder. Maybe it's beating you up with a 2x4, but it is wanting to awaken all of us to this greater potential, because that river is rising. The river is rising. The river is rising, and rising waters float all boats. So as you and I step out of naming and claiming the limitation out there, the problems out there, and again, I'm not saying don't see them, don't observe them, but do you know that observance doesn't mean endorsement? It doesn't mean endorsement. It just means observing. Wow, that's unjust. I want to work to do something more that will dismantle that. That's not freedom. That's racism. I want to do something more to dismantle that, because I know the true nature of all humanity is freedom. I'm going to work with that. I'm going to work with that. Do you see the difference? Yes. Skip, do you see the difference? Okay. We also forget that change happens from the inside out, not the other way around. It has to happen through us, not to us. We have this idea that, why didn't God fix this? Why hasn't God changed this? Why? No, we are here as God to change it. That's how that works. We are here as the divine, to be the divine. End of story. End of that story, anyway. We must consciously and intentionally cultivate a practice of engaged transcendence. Engaged transcendence. Don't numb out. Don't numb out. But begin to really engage. Over the next few months, you're going to see us engaging in different programs. One of them, which will start in May, is all about you and me knowing our infinite source in every area of life. In other words, a prosperous life, an abundant life. And then in June, moving into an abundance workshop of a 40-day practice, because I want to see everybody in this community so wealthy, so successful, so not immersed in the thought of, oh God, what if there isn't enough? What if there isn't enough? But so immersed in the idea, oh, I am just floating in God. I'm floating in the river, and man, it's rising. I want to see it so much that you never again have to hear me say, time for our offering. I want us to be successful on every level. Money is just a reflection of the energy of God within us. It's a symbol. It's all symbolic. So if we can begin to know who we are as source expressing, everything little by little begins to unfold in a greater way. But we have to be willing. Are you willing? We don't get what we want. We get what we are. We get what we think we are. The time has come for us to stand on the invisible and to make it visible. So stand on the invisible now and make it visible. Tomorrow morning, in your Mondays, in your Tuesdays, your difficult conversations, your chronic diagnosis, your hard relationships, make it visible. Make it visible in how you love yourself when you've judged yourself to fall short, and how you go high when everything else around you goes low. Remember what Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. That's a theology. Yeah, you can applaud that. I didn't say it, so let's applaud for her. That is a life theology. That even when that world is showing that low, that mud, which is okay, we know that we are more than that, and that the roots are forming, that we are rising up, and that there is always more on the mountaintop. So join me on the mountaintop. I'm so glad that you are here today. There's so much more to be revealed, and I just want to finish with this one thought. I had a minister that I grew up with from the time I was about 8 years old, and she used to close her talks and her services like this. So I invite you now to go forth, filled with love, filled with joy, filled with the zest of the here and now. I surround each soul here in a spiritual magic tube of electronic light protection that is impenetrable, invulnerable, and invincible. A ring pass not. Nothing shall touch us but the direct action of God, and that is love. This is the truth. God knows it, I know it, and I know that I know it, and so it is. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So let's just anchor this briefly in prayer. We turn away from the desert. We allow the desert to be. We turn away from the mud. We allow it to be. But we remember that we are mountaintop beings. We are here for the high, wonderful, holy, sacred experience of the divine in, as, and through us. So we say yes to that. And we know that we are engaged consciously to move into a greater realization of our connection with God and with each other. For this is a center for oneness, not two-ness, oneness. We allow it to be the greater truth of who and what we are. And we know that it absolutely informs everything that we do, and it surrounds, it immerses and saturates all area of life. And not just here in this room, not just in our personal lives, but in everything else around us, because we carry this vibration and we are of one mind. So we know that as we bless, as we call forth the greater blessing in anything, be it ourselves, our families, or people out in the world, or leaders, or politics, whatever that thing is which has appeared to be a growth opportunity, an evolutionary trigger, we bless it knowing that we are calling forth the divine. And therefore, we don't just liberate ourselves, we liberate that person from being trapped in our judgment. They are free to rise. We liberate that leader from being trapped in our judgment and our anger. They are free to rise. We liberate that country, that situation, that war, whatever it is, from being trapped in our judgment, and now they are all free to rise because this river rises. That's what it does. So I bless this church. I bless all churches everywhere, all mosques, temples, ashrams, cathedrals, synagogues, wherever the light is brought forth in a greater way. We honor that light, and I know that we surround this entire planet with the knowing that there is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is our life right here and right now. Nothing and no one can stand in the way of that, including us. We simply say yes, and so it is, and together we say, Amen. Amen.